The People's Reset UK is coming to Bath this September the 27th to the 29th. And today, Derrick and I are going to be announcing the full lineup. We've been working on this incredible event now for just over 6 months, and we're really excited about what we've put together. So we're here today to give you an overview of where the event has come from, what this event is all about, and what you can expect, and invite you to come and join us to opt out of the technocratic state at our Summit of the Future. Derrick, tell us a little bit about the People's Reset, where it came from and why it's important.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited, Dan. We are just 2 weeks away from meeting in Bath, and I can't believe it. We first talked about this back in January when you came to what was then called the Greater Reset 5 manifestation in January of 2024. And we were really thrilled to have you come out, and obviously you wanted to bring it to the UK, and I can't believe it. We are 2 weeks away now. So just a little bit of background for those who might be sort of new to the event and to the broader movement that we're focused on building. We launched, we being myself, John Bush, and members of the Freedom Cell Network, which is a solutions-focused network we've been working on since 2016. In summer 2020, we were looking around the digital space and then the freedom community, and we noticed there was a lot of palpable fear in the air. You guys might remember that back in early 2020, June 2020, just a few months into the whole COVID panic, the World Economic Forum put out videos and announced this Great Reset initiative and said that COVID had provided the perfect opportunity to reset the economy, to reset our world. And there was also the videos circulating and articles that the World Economic Forum had published calling for owning nothing and being happy, in the near-term future. And so a lot of people were, I think, terrified of this. And some people seem to be sort of just accepting that this is our future. Oh my God, they're going to Great Reset, lockdowns. It was a really scary time. And we wanted to do something that felt like giving people real, actual hope, not, 4 years later, here we are again. It's an election time in the US and more people falling for what I consider false hope. It was a similar thing in 2020. The US elections were coming up. People were terrified about lockdowns. They were thinking, politics was the only way to fix things, or maybe, just give up and accept the reality. And we wanted to provide a different vision, an alternative vision. And we also recognize that the World Economic Forum meets every January in Davos. And that January 2021, they were going to be announcing the full details of their Great Reset plan. And so we said, why don't we gather in person as much as possible in the middle of lockdowns? If you remember January 2021, why don't we gather in person and host our own 5-day event? And we sat down and thought about what are the different themes and topics we want to focus on. And in many ways, the interesting thing is some of the topics we talk about are very similar to the things that are talked about at Davos. The major difference, of course, being that they talk about it from this top-down, technocratic, central planning, central control viewpoint, where we are very much coming from a bottom-up, grassroots, people-powered perspective. And so that was the very beginning of the movement. It started in January 2021. It was held originally just in Mexico with John Bush live in his studio in Texas. And then we did the second one in May 2021. And at that point, we started doing them live in Texas and in Mexico. And we did that from the second, third, fourth, and the third and fourth one, and the fifth one was only in Mexico again. And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. We had live audiences in both places, hundreds of people in both locations, streaming to thousands of people in more than 27 countries around the world. The first one reached more than 100,000 people at this very important time. And we realized that we had tapped into something. The other important aspect is that the entire event is solutions focused. So we didn't have people debating virus theory or debating 9/11 or talking about the New World Order. Obviously, we were sort of responding to what they're doing, the World Economic Forum and what I call the predator class. But ultimately, it was a focus on what can we do for ourselves, right? And so we've been a part of and been blessed to be co-creating this beautiful movement. As I mentioned, Dan came down and we decided we need to bring it to UK. And we're even going to be continuing this year in Mexico in January. It's now been rebranded the People's Reset. So that's why we're having the People's Reset UK in 2 weeks, the People's Reset Mexico in January. And I'm thrilled and honored that people want more of this. I'm so excited to be gathering in the UK, especially because once again, we're trying to offer an alternative vision, this time not so much focused on the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, but to the UN's Summit of the Future, which is taking place next weekend in New York City. And that is where they're going to sign the Pact for the Future. And they're going to, try to race towards completion of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Agenda 2030. So once again, we're seeing this sort of globalist anti-freedom push, and they're getting organized. They're making moves, and we figured, we need to do the same thing. So the People's Reset UK is sort of sub-themed our summit for our future, as Dan said, opt out of the technocratic state, and that's really our focus. So I'm excited. I'm excited to share the lineup that we've put together. I know I was just talking to my partner Miriam, who's been handling the workshops. We've got more than 31 workshops for people who are coming in person, and there's just so much to get into. So let's do it.
Yeah, thank you, Derrick. And it was such an incredible experience coming to Morelia, Mexico for the event, to the point I think by the second day or third day, I said, we just need to bring this to the UK. And we spoke about it at the event and agreed, but before we'd even finished the event, that we would bring it to the UK. And we announced it from stage on the final day and said, look out for the People's Reset UK. And here we are 2 weeks out now. And the reason I thought it was so important was not only because it was so focused on solutions, but it brought a level of optimism and hope that I think many people need in this environment. And it's not false hope. It's not hopium. It's not placing the solution on someone else's shoulders. It's actually really looking ourselves in the mirror and saying, how do we help to forge and shape the future that we want to create? And how do we start to model that in our own lives? How do we literally be the change we want to see? If we want a free world, how do we free ourselves? Which is why when we go through the program in a minute, you'll see that a lot of the subjects are really about the changes that you can make in your own life to opt out of the technocratic state in every component of it. So how do we remove ourselves from dependencies on big pharma or big agriculture or big food or big tech? We're signposting the solutions and alternatives to many of these mainstream incumbents. So, Derrick, have you got any other comments on that before I bring us up to the lineup?
No, let's go ahead and get into it, and we can cover the themes while we go through the speakers.
Sure thing. So I'm going to take us straight here now to the schedule. So the event is taking place from the 27th to the 29th of September in Bath at the Apex Hotel. And the first day we'll cover two key themes. First, we've got liberate your mind, body, and soul. And I'll ask Derrick to kind of elaborate on this. But for me personally, what I'm really excited about from this is really how do we embrace natural health practices? How do we manage to elevate our consciousness in this time where humanity is becoming increasingly polarized, fractured? How do we break beyond that? That's the soul part for me. So it's not only nourishing our mind, body, and soul, but actually really getting into the point of how do we live differently in this kind of state of reality that we're facing. So Derrick, tell us a little bit about the theme, and then we'll walk through the program.
Yeah. So for me, the first one, liberate your mind, body, and soul or spirit. The reason we've always started that one at like the first thing since the beginning, well, there's two reasons I would say. The first being that I think it's often overlooked in our communities. We can be very focused on the outside world, the external world. Like we got to go march, we got to go protest, confront government, confront corporations. And those are all, useful strategies and tools, of course. But our movement very much is focused on both the external and internal. Even that liberate your mind, body, and soul. It's, your body, of course. So what do you put in your body? What do you eat? All those sorts of things. But then it's also, what are you putting in your mind? The kind of content that you consume. This is why we're all solutions focused. We're not here to tell you that everything's doom and gloom and, just give up. And then more internally, the spirit, the kind of like spiritual, emotional, mental element of this whole thing. And we don't advocate for any specific religion or spiritual belief or anything like that. It's just really encouraging people to find that interconnection to, what we think is the creative source of life, and that deeper world that is a part of each of us that's beyond the five senses. So there's people who have discussions, like you said, about getting off big pharma and tools to take care of your physical health. There's people who talk about mental health and how you can work through those potential struggles. And then also people who are more focused on that kind of internal, I often call it the internal tyrant. It's like the battle against our own doubts, fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs, which can sometimes hold us back. And I personally believe right now we need the best version of all of us to be stepping up. And so the more we work on those internal things, the more we're able to step up and take on the other physical world elements. So, to me, it all matters. I know that, Dan, you hit the gym just like I do. To me, that's another often overlooked part of our movement. We're not going to have a workout at the event, but I do think we could pay more attention to our physical health, not just in terms of what we eat, but staying active, being able to be mobile long into older age and things like that. I think all of these elements are important. Ultimately, we're trying to take a holistic look at the whole picture.
Absolutely. So just walking through the program, every single session will have around 4 speakers, and each day will contain generally 2 themes. So we'll start the day on Friday with Liberate Your Mind, Body, and Soul. Derek and Miriam and I will kick off the event to give you the opening ceremony to what we can expect over the course of the weekend before we're led into a group interactive intention setting experience, so everyone can get into small groups of 8 to start to connect with other attendees. You know, one of the biggest advantages of coming to an event like this is the kind of freedom tribe that you will connect with. And there's more to come on that. We'll talk about our evening events. And then Miriam is going to do us a lovely opening meditation before our first set of talks. So we're joined by Anthony Samaroff, Rebecca Bush, and Patrick Holford. Anthony gave an incredible talk in Mexico around some of the myths of big pharma and how we can navigate those myths. And then Rebecca Bush is coming to tell and share her own detox journey and her own healing journey. But she brings a wealth of expertise as well. You know, she works directly with John Bush in the United States around land-based solutions to help people go off grid and escape the system. So you're going to have the opportunity to meet Rebecca and hear about her wider stories as well. And then Patrick Holford's going to close the session. Recently been on the podcast, the Astin-Gregory Show, talking about the importance of our brain health. And when we normally think of physical health, we tend to overlook mental health. And it's not just about mental health; it's actually about brain health and the nutrition that we require in order to optimize our brain functioning. And having spent some time with Patrick in the recent weeks, I think the price of admission alone is worth it for just this talk, on the basis that, you know, this guy can help you to develop practices to extend your life, but also to ward off what is now not known to be an inevitable dementia or Alzheimer's. So this is an incredible morning to start the day. Then we move into permaculture and food independence, and of course, you know, we can't have a healthy body without healthy food. So it's perfect that we then springboard into food independence and permaculture. So it's not just about the food that we eat; it's about actually, again, how do we break free from the incumbent systems. Derek, tell us a little about why that you believe this theme is so important.
So permaculture in food independence. I mean, I think so many people in our broader movements are starting to realize that food is a potential source for, let's just say, attack. You know, I wrote about this in the second edition of my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, that during COVID, we saw these different attack vectors, you know, obviously your travel, your movement, and these are different ways that they're able to squeeze people. Like you said earlier, if you're dependent on the system. So if you are dependent on the big grocery markets, the big box stores for your food, and you have no connection to, say, a local farmer or, you know, a local butcher to get your eggs or produce or whatever it is that you eat, or you don't go to farmers markets and even have a relationship with them, which is, I think, something that the vast majority of us don't, and it's something we need to put effort into, because without that, it will be very easy for these folks to squeeze you once again and say you can't get into the market without this digital ID or whatever. So, and of course, supply chain problems, we could go on and on. The point is, food is such a vital source. Obviously, it's keeping us alive. And the closer we are to the food, the better off we are. And we're going to get into the permaculture aspect of it, which is really a whole design philosophy about how you relate to the planet, not just how you grow your food, but how you build your buildings, how you organize yourselves. And I think it's a beautiful philosophy that I encourage people to learn more about. But I'm so excited about the UK version of this, because we've been doing this in Mexico and Texas for a while, and all 4 of our speakers that are going to be on this segment are from the UK, which I think is really exciting. And we're going to do a panel with all 4 of them together. So they're going to do their individual talks, and then they're going to come together, and you'll get to ask them questions and pick their brains. And I'm really excited for Charles Dowding, I mean, among everybody else, but I know that everybody who is involved in permaculture, even some of the speakers who are not on Permaculture Day, have said that they've learned from Charles and they really benefited from his efforts. So I'm excited about it. And I know also that this might be something that isn't always the first thought for people in the UK, especially if you don't have land. But I know that there are community gardens. I know there are urban farms in different places. It's just about making that effort to find them, to look for them, or starting a little windowsill garden or a backyard garden or whatever you have, coming together in community with other people, finding some space to just learn about these tools, watching a documentary. I mean, there's so many ways, but of course, the best way to learn about it is to tune into the People's Reset, listen to these talks online if you can't come in person, or come in person and get to meet them face to face.
Absolutely, Derek. Yes, and Angus and Charles are some of the most sought after people in this space. And Nick and Rich, they've been pioneering this now for the last 5 years. And they've had mentorship from Charles, and what they're doing is really incredible. And they're going to be running a workshop as well on how you can do this in your own backyard. If you don't have access to land, it's going to be you'll have the opportunity to get up close and personal and start to learn these skills for yourself. So moving on to the close of our Friday event, Derrick, we've got our community networking experience. Tell us a little bit about what people can expect there.
Yeah, so I'm excited for this one. This has been one of our more popular events. Every time we've done the People's Reset in the past, we will have these evening activities, and we've done various versions of this. We've done conscious speed dating, community speed dating. The goal, of course, is just to help everybody come together and meet more like-minded people. There are lots of folks who come to these in-person events, and they're coming from places, whether it's in the UK or America or wherever, where they're going to go home to a place where they feel very isolated. And they come in person and they're like, oh my God, it's so great. I'm meeting all these people. But then they just go home, and then they're kind of maybe back to their old routine. So our goal with this is to bring everybody together on our first night and say, okay, who's from the UK? Let's get you on this side of the room. Okay, now let's break that up. Who's from Wales? Who's from London? And facilitate the connection between people, with the hope that all those who are coming in person won't go home without a new friend, at the very least, without knowing somebody who is close to them, if not in the same town or region that they are. And those relations can continue to flourish, because we don't want the People's Reset. This is an activation, right? So we want you to go home feeling activated, but we don't want that activated feeling to disappear after a couple of days or weeks. We want you to be able to go home and actually apply the ideas. And we know that community is key. So one of the best ways to do that is to help people find like-minded folks in their community, in their neighborhood, in their, at the very least, in their country that they didn't know, and then hope that those relationships will continue to flourish after our event's over.
Absolutely. So then moving on to our second day, the 28th, Saturday, the 28th of September, again in Bath. We're looking at empowering technology, and often decentralized technology. And Hakeem is joining us to introduce the topic at the event. Hakeem is the founder of the Above agency, the Above phone, the Above book, which is 2 privacy-based tools that you can actually escape from, the mobile telephone communication tools that can actually enable you to use these tools free from the surveillance that you will get within your Android phones or your Apple phones and various other technologies. So Hakeem is going to come and introduce the day for us. And then we're joined by 3 really different speakers who are going to give us a fascinating overview. So we've got Clive DeGaulle, who's often known for his supplements, but actually and his work on health and natural health. But he's embracing a whole wave of health technology, and he's going to come and give an overview of the kind of landscape of health technology and showcase some of his own tools. We're going to then be joined by Robert Reduta from BChat. Tell us a little bit about what BChat you can expect of BChat, Derrick.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not an expert on BChat, but they did speak at one of the previous People's Reset events, and so I'm excited for them to come back, because when they first spoke, this was maybe 2 to 3 years ago, they were just starting the project, and it is basically they're building a device that can allow for communications, whether that's cellular or internet communications, without access to the mainline internet. So you could kind of think about it, at least the way that I understand it, as almost like a hotspot, but a hotspot that's independent of all the big tech stuff that we know about. And that could be used in emergency situations. Also, if you have multiple of these devices, you could set up a mesh network and have your own localized network to access the internet and things of that sort. So, I mean, I think it's these kind of tools when people out there say, well, what are we going to do if they shut down the internet, or how are we going to communicate without being dependent on, the big tech internet companies? It's these kinds of tools. So I'm excited. I'm going to be learning myself whenever I hear the presentation, but I'm excited to see the progress they've made.
Yeah, same with Rose O'Leary, who's working with the Dark5 project, really looking at decentralized ways to transact. They've got some amazing tools to really essentially enable us to trade with one another, to have commerce, but also to communicate with each other. So they've got another layer of privacy-based solutions about how we can interact privately and how we can avoid some of the censorship issues that we're seeing on big tech. And then, of course, Hakeem is going to be giving us a closing keynote as part of the subject. So that's our morning, looking at how we can unplug from big tech and looking at how we can retain our privacy and liberate ourselves online, recognizing that, many of us are trying to unplug more and more and actually return to a more natural way of living. But nonetheless, these tools are an important component of how we live our lives. So we want to address that balance. In the afternoon, we're looking at agorism and parallel networks. And agorism is one of the guiding philosophies that underpins what we're doing here. And ultimately, it really boils down to removing our dependencies from outside systems. So this is where we really get into the alternative systems and parallel structures. And we're going to be joined by Sam X, who's going to be looking at some of the alternative finance and some of the technologies within the finance space. Going to give a high-level introduction to the financial reset and how you can adopt new technologies to help you to operate outside of that. We're also going to be joined by Nigel Howitt, who's the host of the Escape the Matrix podcast, who's really got over a decade now of experience in helping people to break free from the matrix. So it's really exciting to have Nigel with us. And then David has worked with Derrick for many years now, and I had the chance to meet David in Mexico. He's going to be flying in to be part of this event. You know, one of the beautiful things about the UK event is that we're going to have some of the key people from the events that have gone before us in the United States and Mexico to really bring home the message. So we'll have David, and of course Derrick is going to be with us as well. So we're going to have a really solid afternoon that's going to be culminating in the keynote speech from Neil Oliver, one of our special guests who's going to be with us. So tell us a little bit about why you're excited for this theme, Derrick, and then of course we've got the closing the concert on Saturday night as well.
Yeah, I think this is going to be, I think, one of they're all important. They're all equally important, but this, I think, is going to be a great afternoon, a great day in terms of focusing on those parallel systems, because this is still, I think, a very new concept to a lot of people. And even to those of us who are focused on it, like myself, we're still in the early stages, but we recognize the importance of, again, opting out. And how do we opt out if there's nothing to opt into, right? There has to be something next stage, alternative, parallel. And that's very much what we're focusing on, whether you're talking about the financial aspect with Sam or different tools for how to live outside the matrix, as Nigel has been doing, which I'm excited to learn about his strategies. David is very much focused on education models, trying to get the kids out of the state indoctrination centers and building new education models. And I'll be sharing from my own personal life of how I've exited from the various systems, both the tips and tricks and the difficulties, and just, the real aspect of trying to move outside of these systems. And of course, I know Neil's going to give us a really empowering speech to close things off. So I'm just excited about the whole day, and hopefully folks who are not familiar with the term Agorism or even parallel networks, I know it's not always the most sexy title, but I encourage you to sit through and listen and learn. And I am really excited too about ending Saturday with the People's Reset concert. We always want to bring in music, and art. This is just, if we're going to create really a cultural movement, we have to have all the different elements. And some people are artists, some people are musicians, some people are speakers and doers. We want to have all the different people contributing different ways. And so we're really, really thrilled to be inviting Dub FX, who is an international touring artist originally from Australia, who's toured across Europe and the UK. He's now living in Portugal, and he'll be coming to Bath to perform that night. It's going to be just a really powerful concert. Whatever your musical genre taste, I encourage you to check him out, because his music, and more importantly, his message, his lyrics, are just, I think, the perfect soundtrack to the movement that we're building, which is solutions focused, which is positive, which is empowering. I'm going to be blessed to be able to perform. Presence is coming out from Arizona in the United States. He's a great artist. We also have Jen Armstrong. She goes by Vegan Queen V. She's from the UK, and she's another amazing artist, and I can't wait to hear her perform. So all in all, and just to make it clear, all of these evening activities are included in the ticket. So if you buy a 3-day ticket, you don't have to buy a separate ticket for the concert, for the networking. It's all packaged together. You get access to the workshops, to all the different themes, to all the evening activities, and the vendors and everything. So that's why, if you can, there's still time to come in person to get your ticket. If you've got the means, I encourage you to come in person. It'll definitely shift your perspective.
Absolutely. Then for the final day, we've only got a couple of minutes left here now. So building free and conscious communities is the final day where we bring it all together. And we've got a full day on this. Many of our people who are attending this are coming purely because they want to learn how to live more free lives, which we've got a whole day dedicated to the subject. We've got such an array of subjects for you. We've got the team, Lydia and Arturo, coming to talk about how we can actually transform our home space to create greater freedom, and how we can transform the energy. That was a truly captivating talk that I enjoyed in Mexico, and they are true pioneers and experts in the field. There's so much you can learn there, from sacred geometry and more. Rob Verkerk is coming from the Alliance of Natural Health, again, one of the long-standing pioneers of natural health, talking about how we can not only transform our own health, but the systems around us. It's really holistic conversation. Then we're joined by James Daneka-Lavers, who's whose expertise is really in terms of how we navigate the mind space of what's happening in the world. He's a true expert in communication, and he's going to talk us about how we can take greater control over our mind and when it comes to navigating information so that we don't get caught out by some of the psychological operations that are happening out there. So that's going to be a truly fascinating session. Melissa Kendall's going to talk to us about alternative education and the what they've got going on at the Griffin Club in just outside of Bath, actually, which is really exciting, really practical project. We've got Katie Joe joining us and Sadie from the Hope Sussex community down in the south of England, who have been really pioneering community-based initiatives since lockdown hit us back in 2020. Yoshi and Paula Pantera are going to be joining us from Ecuador. Again, meeting Yoshi and Paula was really, truly transformational for me to see some of the things that are happening in the South America states around how people are finding freedom and escaping the different structures there. So there's a whole wealth of wisdom there that they'll be bringing around free and conscious communities. And of course, John Bush from the Live Free Academy, one of the founders of the event with Derek, is going to be joining us on the final day alongside myself. And then to close the event, we have the Music Temple and Cacao ceremony, which is a most glorious way to bring the event together. It's a community jam session. There'll be singing, dancing, music. To me, it was one of the most beautiful experiences of the Mexican event, and it really left you feeling kind of high before you go home and take the energy with you into the next phase, which is going home and implementing all of this stuff. So, Derek, we've got a truly transformational program, and we've not even touched upon the 30 plus workshops. You can go onto the workshop schedule here. We haven't got time to go through each of these, but you can go to the workshop program. So alongside the main talks, alongside that, within the early mornings or the lunch breaks in the evenings, we have 30 different interactive workshops for you. All of these are all included. Many of our speakers are delivering workshops as well. You can look through the full program here. The majority of this does not clash with any of the main stage talks that you've just seen. So there is just an abundance of opportunities for you to connect, to grow, to experience how we can live a truly free and conscious life, and how we can start to create a ripple effect in the world that will really enable us to break free from these oppressive systems that are really curtailing our rights and freedoms. So it doesn't matter what those systems and structures are doing outside of ourselves. What we want to do is create a platform that you can connect with that will help you to really take control of your future, not just for yourself, but for your families, your community, and for generations to come. Derek, we're going to close up here. We're nearly done in terms of our time here. Do you want to give a final call to action, people, to give people the last bit of excitement to come and join us in Bath in a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited looking at that lineup, and I can't believe what we've put together. It's been a labor of love. It's been beautiful, and I want to thank Miriam and our entire team who behind the scenes has been working on the workshops and everything else that's going to be there. I'll issue the same call to action. If you're hearing this and you're on the fence, just go ahead and get your tickets now. Go ahead and come in person, make the effort. What I always tell people is consider this an investment in yourself. We're fully aware of the economic situation in the UK and in many people around the world. We're fully aware that this could be a challenge for some people, but I encourage you, if you look at this as an investment in yourself, the time, the money, the energy that you put in to come to Bath, to hang out for 3 to 4 days, to connect with people, you will go home feeling inspired, feeling activated. And hopefully, like most of the people we've seen, you'll come with a pen and a pad, you'll write down notes, you'll get inspired, and then you will go home and implement these ideas to your life. If you do that, I promise you it will be worth every cent you spend, every amount of energy, and every second that you put into making it there. And we will be more than happy to welcome you with a warm smile and a big hug to Bath, UK. Again, it's September 27th to the 29th, thegreaterreset.org, thepeoplesreset.org. Please get your tickets today, guys, and we'd love to see you in Bath.
See you in Bath, everyone. Thanks very much for being with us. Please share this and do share the great work that we're doing here. And we hope to see you in Bath from the 27th to the 29th of September for the People's Reset UK.
This is a solutions event. This is what's happening.
After 5 successful events in North America, the Freedom Cell Network is partnering with Free Humanity to bring the People's Reset to Bath, UK.
The technocrats at the United Nations and the World Economic Forum are now hosting the Summit of the Future in New York City in September 2024.
Join us in September for the People's Reset UK, our summit for our future.
Over 3 days, we will gather in community, celebrating our victories and successes, whilst continuing to highlight solutions under 5 holistic themes.
Liberate your mind, body, and spirit.
Permaculture and food independence.
Building parallel networks.
Empowering technology.
And building free and conscious communities. 24 top-notch speakers, including Charles Dowding, Dan Astin-Gregory, Nigel Hallett, John and Rebecca Bush, and many more.
We'll also be hosting the People's Reset concert featuring international artist Dub FX, as well as Presence, 33, and more talented performers to come. Join us for the People's Reset UK. Visit thegreaterreset.org to learn more and to get your ticket today.